Yo, what is good, guys? In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 3 tips that I have to offer to get away and avoid an MC011 restriction. So, I have personal experience with using an MC011 or getting an MC011 restriction. So, I believe I'm probably one of your best people to go over this. And how many times have I gotten it? I've gotten it 2 times. And I've actually been successfully able to get out of it both times. But there's limitations and there's problems that come with that, okay? So, first off, before we even get started with going over how I got out of the MC011s, we're going to go over how to avoid getting them altogether. Because MC011s suck. You want to have those, like, you really never, ever, ever want those to happen, to be honest. Like, MC011s are terrible and you want to avoid them at all costs. So we're going to get started and we're going to talk about that. But without further ado, if you guys like what I talk about, if you could hit that subscribe button, if you could also like the video, that would give me so much good feedback. Also, drop comments on what videos you want to see next. Give me some more stuff to, pitch to you guys and throw out there and teach you guys how to do. I'm going to try and get more people involved and start interviewing more people. I also have my stealth account that's coming up right now. I'm going to start a weekly series on how to set up a stealth account and get that going. I may not talk about everything stealth on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure yet. I may make another like PDF or something where you guys can learn how I set it up and things like that. I'm still in the works with that one and want to see how much information I put out there on it. It's a US stealth account, first off, so it's by far one of the best ones too. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this and talk about how to avoid an MC011 restriction. So my first step and my first tip is going to be for you guys, oh my gosh, number one. So with all of your information that you upload and all the items that you're selling, please, 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 please do me the favor. Make sure you upload all your tracking on time. I cannot express how important tracking is nowadays for eBay. Back in the day when I first started, tracking wasn't important at all, but as they've changed and updated their service and they change. So what eBay does is it kind of seems like it changes at least 4 times a year, improving their software in their eyes and improving how customers can navigate their website and making it easier for customers, as well as trying to generate more profit for themselves. It seems like these changes happen 4 times a year. They got spring, summer, fall, winter updates, and at those times they implement at least 1 to 2 changes that are pretty drastic, and sometimes they drop like changes in the middle of the months as well that cause disturbances. And you'll see these if you're in any of the Facebook groups or any of the free groups, or watch any YouTube channels that talk about this or that are really serious about dropshipping. They usually go over this. We can kind of like the sellers who've been doing this for a while can actually pinpoint these. So with that being said, that is why I'm stressing to you that step number 1 is going to be to make sure that your tracking is uploaded on time. How do you go about doing that? Well, there's a few steps. You can do this manually, which is how you should do it when you're first starting out. As you become better and better at this, and you have more items that you have to pretty much stay on top of, you want to make sure that you have software to implement this. And now also with eBay's changes, we want to make sure that it's non-API. Non-API software is going to be anything that doesn't connect to eBay's API, to make sure that you're not damaging your store or your availability to sell on eBay. Again, this is one of those software updates that had changed since I was started, and back in the beginning you were able to use API integrated software. Nowadays, and I'm speaking with an open mind here, there's some softwares you can get away from, but to keep you guys as clean and safe as possible, and how I go about this, I use absolutely no API software whatsoever. So you want to try and use a software that doesn't use any API. What I recommend is TrackerBot. I've been with those guys for years. I talk to them on a nonstop basis. Like, they're fantastic people. really good to work with, and they're going to give you guys like the tracking information real early so you have it ready to go. Okay, so I would use TrackerBot non-API. I'll show you guys what it looks like. So you're going to use the non-API version. All right, so this would be your TrackerBot. You're going to be able to use this, and I highly recommend using TrackerBot non-API. It's going to help you guys when you're uploading your tracking to avoid an MC011 restriction. The other way that you can go about this is by using a VA. VAs are going to cost money, and with this, it's almost a better idea to use a software like TrackerBot so that you stay up on top of things. I wouldn't recommend getting a VA to do this. You can, but I wouldn't recommend it. Now that TrackerBot 9 API is out, it's highly recommended to get this. Okay. All right. Step 2 is going to be make sure your items are accurately depicted and have a repricer such as SKU grid attached to it. Okay. So when you're listing your items, don't like list like, hey, I'm selling like these, I don't know, sunglasses, and then ship like a wallet to somebody. You got to make sure that what you're selling is actually what you're selling. The reason why is because if you get too many complaints, too many people sending the items back, or too many, things that are going wrong with these items, eBay is going to question you and be like, yo, what is going on with this, and why are you having so many problems? They check these things regularly. You're going to come up and have problems with it. So you don't want this to happen, okay? So that is another thing that you're gonna wanna do. You're gonna have cases that open against you. You're gonna have buyers who are leaving you negative feedback. The more cases that you have, eBay scrutinizes that, all right? They really look at this and they're like, whoa, what is going on with this individual, and why are they having all these cases getting opened up, all right? That is one of the reasons my first store got an MC011. There were too many cases that were opened up for too many things, such as item cancelations, too many of them, a couple other things too. But you want to go about that, and you want to make sure that you're on top of your stuff, okay? All right, so step number 3, we're going to stay on step number 2 for another second. You can use things such as like SKU grid, non-API, which is able to reprice and monitor your items, make sure that they're connected to the same links in the background, so that when you are selling the items that you say you're selling, like they're all organized and you can tell which one's which and where they go to. You want to sell like a lamp, or list a lamp, and then have that link connect to like a TV, and you're having troubles making the sales and like things are repriced wrong. You don't want to have this. You want to have it very organized. Your foundation has to be solid if you want to be successful. Things have to go in a specific order. They have to be linked. They have to be listed right. The descriptions have to be to the T, to the point, and everything has to be done correctly if you want to be successful. Otherwise, eBay is really going to crack down on you guys, and they're going to have problems with you selling on their site, and that'll happen, okay? If you have too many cancellations, items not as described, too many negative feedbacks, people are, really talking negative about your items, returns, like there's a bunch of variables to this. So I want to make sure that we do that part right. Make sure your items are accurately depicted, okay? Step 3, make sure you don't cancel orders often, okay? So every once in a while, we're going to come into problems where we have to cancel orders because of either they went out of stock and we didn't catch it, our repricing software didn't catch it, things like this. I'm trying to remember other reasons why you would cancel an order. The price increased too much. Like sometimes you gotta think out the box. I remember I had this one item, right? And I was gonna get ready to cancel it, but because the item had sold for such a high price. So the first thing I did was I tried to source it from different sources, and obviously the other sources were just as high, right? However, and I tried to explain this to people, but I don't think they understood it at the time. So they were like, well, why don't you use another source? So the other source that I found that actually had a cheaper item that was selling it had a longer shipping time than what I actually had listed and what my prior source before they increased the price had done, right? So now I was in a little predicament and I had to figure this situation out. So what I did to make sure that this was accurately done right and that we didn't have to face this dilemma where I had to ship this item out, and I was going to lose a ton of money. It was like a $50 loss on top of what before. That was even before like the eBay fees and things like that. This item was like a $200 item, so I was going to take a huge loss. I was going to be like probably like $80 out, right? So I don't want to take that loss. So what I found out was reading through the website, I believe it was Walmart, was that they do actually take price matches, right? So I was able to find out the first source wasn't able to be price matched by Walmart, but the second source I kept reading and I found an item that was similar to it that was inside their guidelines for price matching, and they price matched it. And I was actually able to capitalize on this. Not only did I sell the item now more often, I was able to get it cheaper than everybody else. So everybody else had the item that was up here because they readjusted their prices if they used the same retail as I did. However, I updated a little bit, but I didn't have to update it a lot because I found a way to actually get the item lower price by finding it from a different source and price matching it every time. So every time I would hit up Walmart and they would price match the item for me, and I'd be able to sell the item faster, get a discount on it, and undersell almost every single person who had that listing as well, unless they were listing it from a similar the source I was using, but the shipping time was slower. So not only did I maximize my shipping time, I also maximized my prices as well. So these things you guys got to be aware of, and they do happen. So like this is how you capitalize on not canceling orders. Like don't panic, think. Okay, that's what I'm gonna say. Don't panic, think. So when you're in these types of predicaments, take a few minutes, see what you can do about it. If there's nothing you can absolutely do, you've tested all different, ways on how to try and figure this out, then obviously the next best step is going to be for you guys to cancel the order. And you want to minimize that. You want to do that as minimal times as possible. So how do we do that? We make sure that our items are done correctly, that we have a backup like SKU Grid that checks and monitors our pricing, that we either have a VAs or you're on this regularly to make sure like the prices haven't changed. You guys, you got to do this. These are like three like major things that you have to keep track of when you're doing this eBay store. It's going to get more complicated as you build up and you get them higher. Me speaking specifically now with running stealth accounts, like I'm starting to figure out things differently again, and like I'm going to list them out. I'm going to do a series on stealth probably soon. After a couple of sales on the account, I'll go over it. I'm not going to go over it now in case like something happens, I got to start all over again. I don't want to show you guys anything until I get my stuff running. All right, so now we're going to go over what happened with my stores, with my MC011 restrictions, and how I beat them, but eBay also bit me back. Okay, so it's like a two-headed snake, I guess you want to call back. I may have killed one, but the other one still bit me. All right, so what happened with my first store, I believe it was too many cancellations that happened on my first store. I'm not 100% like on that one. I think it was too many cancellations and problems with the order. So what happened was like I had sent out items and this was back in the day. So I was using a new store that was for used items only, right? This is why I if you were one of my, people who I was teaching how to use Zik Analytics back in the day when I was working with Nahar, we'd go over this and I would tell you guys like stay away from used items. So what happened was I found a way how to ship out a ton of used items using software I used to use all the time. And what happened was that the items were getting listed wrong as well as coming in with missing parts, and there was so many problems with it and like how to get these items delivered right on time. And it was a new store, so eBay had a problem with it, and they were asking for all these information. Luckily dropshipping wasn't like not allowed yet on the site, even though they say it's not allowed now, but like it still is. I put it in quotation marks because it's like if you do it properly and stay within the guidelines, then you're fine. However, if you're one of those people who try to read the rules and not read the specific wording used in the words, then you're going to have an issue with it. But if you actually read how eBay describes it, then you understand that it is still allowed, but you have to follow the guidelines. Okay, So back in the day, they didn't even have rules like that, and it was like free game, okay? But what happened was the used items were coming up, and like people were complaining too many times. It was too new of a store to have this many problems. Like in the beginning, your stores need to be clean. They need to be work like like a clock. It needs to do everything it's supposed to do. Everything needs to be right. Everything needs to be organized. Everything needs to be shipped on time. No customer complaints. Boom, boom, boom. You want like as little problems as possible when you're setting up and you're starting a brand new store. If you have more problems, it's gonna lead to like your store getting shut down faster and like eBay not playing any games. They're gonna be like, nah, we don't want you here. We're finding you to be a problem on our site. We don't have time to deal with this, right? So what happened was that's what happened, and I got hit with an MC011 because I was trying to sell used items on a new account, and it wasn't working, and they hit me with an MC011. So they gave me all the information. They're like, hey, we need to know your suppliers, where you're getting your items from. And at this time, like I was still able to use Walmart, so I gave them all this information, and they were like, okay, no problem. Like, that's fine. We'll let this go. But you're limited to one account. So I was restricted to one account now. Now I can't even set up other accounts. So like this kind of sucks, right? So eventually what happened, that one account got flagged indefinitely. Like there's no way to, change a flagged account. I mean, if you figured it out, congratulations, but I've had my flagged account for over a year and a half and like it's still flagged. Like it doesn't matter. Like whatever I do with that account, it's still flagged. And I've started other accounts since then. So I know, even though I got limited to the one account, I said, all right, let me try it again. So I tested it and I was able to successfully start up a new account, even being limited to one account by the MC011. So what I did is I started up another account and I got it going, and it was running so smooth. Like it was perfect. It was like, yes, I'm back at this again. I got this going. We're doing good. We got this account moving and rocking and shaking. And then what happened again is I got hit with an MC011 restriction. So at this time, TrackerBot didn't have a non-API way of adding tracking to it. So what happened was my tracking fell by the wayside. It wasn't even by enough. It wasn't by a lot, but it was enough where it caused concern with eBay, and they restricted the account again, and I got hit with an MC011. This is why I'm saying, like, your foundation has to be perfect in the beginning. Try to avoid as many problems as you possibly can. Like, make sure you're doing, like, just try and perfect everything that you possibly can in the beginning before, your accounts have problems in the future. So that happened to my account. And it sucked. Like I was like, oh my gosh, again. So this time, like I went through the process, but I had to come up with a supplier that I was using because now the rules were in place. Like it can't be dropship. So I had to make up a story where I was getting the items. I had to show receipts for them. So I did that. I got everything all done. And what happened was eBay came back to me. They were like, okay, you're still allowed to use eBay, but you're still limited to your one account. So I was still able to be limited and restricted back to my one account. I think that time I got extremely lucky. So they were just like, yeah, you could still sell on here. And they were just like, slapped me on the wrist and gave me back my old account. So I've played the game twice now, and I've been limited to that same account that I always had. So, and it works. Like I can still list on there right now if I wanted to, but I'm kind of keeping it by the wayside. Maybe in the future, sometime it won't be flagged anymore, but who's to say? eBay is a weird site. So with that being said, I want you guys to avoid that at all costs. But if it does happen, there's always the stealth route. So don't ever cut yourself shy and say like there's no more ways to get in, because obviously there's ways to get in. I'm running a stealth account now just to make sure like, I can do everything properly and stay afloat. I also have my old eBay account ready to go again. I could also try the system again and try setting up another eBay account. I think I can do it again. My name is very generic, so I think that is probably what helps me. With others, it may be probably a problem depending on how generic your name is. I have like a super generic name, so it wouldn't be that much of a problem for me. But that is how I want you guys to avoid your MC011 restrictions. And I will show you with my new account that I'm starting right now how I go about it, and I'm going to avoid it. I'm not going to have it happen. Like the 2 times that it happened to me were things that can happen but you should avoid. The first time it happened, I was being too greedy. I wanted to get used items up fast. I wanted to sell them. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to maximize my profits, and I got way too greedy. And when that happens, you're not thinking enough and you slip up. When greed takes over, it causes you to lose, sense sometimes. Second time it happened, I was a little bit too lazy. So greed and laziness were the two issues that brought on my MC011s. I wasn't doing everything properly that I needed to do to maintain my store the second time, and that's how I got hit with the MC011. It's nobody's fault but my own. You have to realize that these things happen and you learn from your mistakes, but you also have to go past them. If you make these mistakes, you have to come up with new ways to generate more revenue. That's what I did. Got another stealth account. We're rocking and rolling. All right, and I'm gonna be creating more after this. I just gotta make sure like it's on point. So those are my 3 tips for how to avoid MC011. Those are my 2 stories on how I got out of MC011, and I also dropped a little snippet in there on how to bypass it in the future and make sure that you're doing good in case you do get MC011 and you're like, squash. I had mad people hit me up once I talked about my stealth account store. They're like, how'd you do it? How'd you do it? How'd you do it? And we'll see if I'm going to go over it on here. I'm not sure yet. But with that being said, if you guys liked what I talked about, if I delivered what you wanted to know, please hit that subscribe button, please. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're so close. We're going to keep rocking this boat. I'm going to keep delivering for you guys. I'm going to show you guys results even faster this time. The software is almost done that I've been working on. We're going to have that up. We're going to have the availability for you guys to message us and tell us what more pieces you want added. We're going to have a bunch of more things added in the future. We just want to make sure it delivers exactly everything you need in the beginning before we get it out to you. This was a hard thing for me, guys. I've never done develop my own software. It just takes some time. We hired a developer to work with us, but it cost a lot of money and he really didn't get that much done, so we had to cut him off. So now it's just me and my boy developing it again, and we're just trying to deliver it to you guys and make sure it works as functionally as possibly it can. Other than that, I want to say, guys, just keep rocking it, making sales, and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. Also, drop in the comments if you want to see a new video, something. Give me something to do a video on. Like, what is next for you guys? Like, I'm gonna take you through the process of bringing on VAs once I get bigger, and I'll show you like these are the steps I take to hire VAs. Like, this is how I got a VA. This is how I vet them. I'll probably record all that and I'll show it to you guys too. And just drop it on you guys. But anyways, I want to say thank you guys for checking this out. I hope this video helped, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.